Time is your best friend ever. Or if you don't have patience enough, it's your worst enemy. But normally it should be your best friend. And also take care of time, because he finishes your job. So here we are under a very old maple. This is a Shirashiwanum maple. This is not such a fast growing variety actually, but it's a very old tree. It was in front of a temple in Japan when they broke this garden down. So I was lucky that I could buy this piece. It was in one container and we brought it to Europe. So it is not planted in the ground, it is above the level actually. So we filled it up here completely, and this tree is here now for I think 15 years now at the same place. And I use this, sometimes I take some layerings, sometimes I remove an interesting branch, but I'm gonna stop with that because I want to keep now the structure. Because I use this to show all my students what we see in an old maple tree. So the branch structure like we see it in Europe here, and it's not the typical Japanese way of branch structure. It's more like our freestyle, but this curves in these branches also, these old maples, they have this interesting branches growing upwards looking for the light. So this is actually a tree, I think every student here was once under this tree to look. This is a good example of what can you do with a maple if you want to style a non-traditional maple style. This is actually pure natural grown.
So you are not going to style a maple like a pine? Or...
No. It's actually like the maple variety grows, because many varieties growing different also we make there a different in what we do. And if I layer something off and it is an elegant tree, it will be more different looking, more literati style, but never because if I want a typical Japanese tree, I buy them in Japan and I have a typical Japanese tree. But I like more, I like the maples, but I like more the traditional natural grown style.
So the branches can grow up and down?
Yeah, and they can look for the light, and branches that don't find the light, they can fall down. And they're looking in that way to the light, you know, they're reaching now outside and they fell under the big branches, and outside branches they find the light and they're growing upwards. So we have upward growing, we have falling down, and it's all natural. And we see this, the older that they get, the older the branch structure had the same feeling. This was looking for the light actually, outside, fell down a little bit, and this was growing upwards. So this is the more natural way of every deciduous tree. And this is what we put in our bonsai. So this is another example of a student's tree, and another example of a long time project. So this is already start to end up in a high class bonsai level, but it is started with an old garden plant. It is started with an old garden plant of an Aragawa that I pruned back and put in a bonsai pot in late 80s, and I trimmed this till late 90s as in that time a good bonsai. But as you can see on the first photo, the good bonsais of that time were not the good bonsais from nowadays. So late 90s, I think, beginning 2000, I'm not sure, beginning of 2000, I think I sold this raw material, but still bonsai, to one of my students. And the only thing from preparation that I did was I removed the apex of the old garden tree. So there was a big mark, and there is still a mark here in the middle that you can see. And from there we started a project of wiring, spread it open, remove the wire and renew it on a regular basis. With the idea of we want to achieve the long in the pot feeling, the moshikomi feeling, we started with this tree in a very early stage to put it in a final pot. We didn't win their extra old bark, but we win more easily the slower growth, because Aragawa maples sprouting out every time very aggressive. So after 2-3 wirings, we start to build up an open crown feeling, and it is completely the opposite as you see in the Japanese style trees. So here you have this feeling like I have in this old maple in my garden, where I bring all my students, look up here and look what you see. So we have this hanging branches, here and there some hanging branches, and in some places an open crown. So where is the apex? It's all apex. Everything is apex. It's just an open branch with all branches that growing upwards, dividing themselves. It's very transparent, but the old bark of the Aragawa maple is already in here, just ended just before the ramification start. So this is how old it is now. So this whole project is about now, I think, 12 years, 14 years that we have this result. Again, you see this, here is the tree in a flat pot, way above his level. So we give them mixture enough. So underneath he has a lot of mixture, he's above his level, a very short trunk. Also here we let you viewing into the old branches. If you see all the movement of the branches that growing upwards all over this tree, it's the same feeling as you are under this big old maple. So with this kind of approach, we created another maple, but more natural maple style. This tree you can find in every old maple garden, where the old Japanese maples are. We are creating just the variety like it should be in nature. And if I want to have a Japanese type of an Aragawa, it's easy. You go to Japan, you buy one over there, and you just have the opposite as what an Aragawa maple should be. So with this student that started on this project, in the time that he was still in his learning process as a beginner, and the time that somebody as a beginner say, okay, I want to spend €1,000 on a piece of raw material, which he in that time didn't have a clue where we're gonna end up. And it's just the commitment of coming back 2 times in a year to bring this tree to the next step. And the commitment that you have to tell to somebody that a delicate species for wiring, because this is what it is. You start to wiring, the branches snap very easily. It was a beginner, he has to wire slowly. Sometimes he came back to the workshop and he said, no, I wired a whole week on that tree. Sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours, but it was perfectly wired. So we could bring these branches in those positions that we want. We created all this, all different levels without going in what they call a path. It are no paths, it are all upgrowing branches. So this commitment, this dedication, that proves that if somebody wants to do this so badly, weak wiring, that means that you have at least 3-4 days removing the wire after a couple of months, and then pruning the refinement. Now if you see all the ramification that we have achieved already, And this year after year after year, now of course it is a very exclusive bonsai. It is a one of a kind. Even if somebody say that's a good idea, I want to do this also, you need your time. It is time that created this. So the next step in the program of this tree is making the right pot, making that the pot is more suitable to this type of tree. So that means the pot's gonna be more flat. We're gonna work on the root ball, that we have some more movement in the root ball, because now this is a part of the whole structure. So we're gonna show the root base, because this one is improved, and this is also one of the reasons why we cover it up like that till now. So by the next repotting, we're gonna find something more beautiful. We're gonna expose this, and then we're gonna give some more movement in the whole root ball by himself, and it comes in a more flat pot. This is the next step. Okay, this chinensis is also made from a piece of cheap raw material. Even the twist in the trunk was not there, the deadwood was not there. Also playing with an inside curve branch and place it there. Those are things that you just can achieve when you don't follow the rules. If you talk about the rules, then there are many branches not on the right place, but you achieve more the more natural approach. But with this tree, I want to give an example of detail work. How much or how tired can be your juniper before you have to stop with your techniques. So here you see already a slightly different of growing points, green growing points, and a little bit darker without growing points. The less we become from the darker, it's better. So this tree come back from a situation that it was not growing strongly anymore. When you overworked a juniper by over pruning, by overworking, it starts to stop growing strongly. And then many people say, okay, when it grows slowly, then it's the time. But then it's also weak for red spider mites. Also kind of all diseases that you work in the hand of, it's all with your technique. The less you let it grow, the more chance you have that the spider mite is coming. And when you have spider mite, you don't see it, because it's in your own garden. You water your trees, you fertilize your trees, and you don't have a clue. When somebody else comes in your garden, he will notice the difference. So when they come here to the workshop, mainly when they come in, I see it directly. Stop, you better not come in the workshop. You have to do a treatment, and it is for a long time. When you have spider mite, it is for a long time. So that is every 10 days, every 12 days, you have to repeat your treatment till the tree starts to grow. So this one is coming back, and he's recovering really well. And now we open them again. He is now in the next step of his life. And also this is started from barely raw material. This was also one of the beginner trees of that person. And all the experiments with making the deadwood, let it become older, making more natural branches. Time, like I said before, can be your best friend. And this is also one of the things that you have to show. So sometimes we use a few little branches when there is a branch not too strong, and then we do a few little branches to keep it there, just to hold it there in position. But are these the branches that gonna stay forever? If you want that this branch is gonna stay forever, we need strong growth. That it becomes like the other examples, and other ways next year, come. We don't need hanging, except if we want hanging branches. This is again another example of a type of juniper with chinensis, but most important thing is be careful with your maintenance. Don't go too far in one time, because when it hits you, you are gone for at least 3-4 years. So keep it healthy. So this is a squamata juniper. It can be compared with the same techniques as you have to do with rigida, or with communis, or with every needle juniper. Because needle junipers are different. It is, you have more needles, and when you have more needles, you have also more old needles. And old needles are become turnover in brown, and with their needles they are so dense, they take away the light. They take away the light for the young buds. So the young buds are not coming if you don't give light. So thinning out is important, and after you thinning out, it is cleaning out. So the commitment that somebody has to do to clean a tree like this again and again and again, it is years and years. This tree is started in 2007. 2007 as a piece of raw material like you saw in the nursery. And you will, as you can see on these photos also, step by step we are improving, we adding branches, we open a little bit. So this morning when this student brought his tree in, I explained them also the next plan. So he is not surprised, because he is here from 2007. He was a beginner then. He was a beginner, and this was one of, I think, his first tree here, like many others. And I told him now the next step, we have to open it more, and we still have to keep this older feeling. But to reach this density, you can easily lay a scissor on top of it, it will not move. It is really as dense as possible. You can see the start of the upgrowing branches. But first, before you all get this, you have your main branches. They have to be strong enough, they have to be thick enough, they have to be ramified enough to carry all this. If this is not possible, those are the first years. We are not working on the image the first years. You can see it on the pictures. We are not paying attention in detailing green, because we are building on our structure. So it doesn't make sense that, okay, if you do it for your own view, that you say, okay, I want to look to something beautiful also, but you spend energy from the tree, and you put wire on branches, and the tree can use this energy without wire, and it goes faster. Don't put your time in that. It's not the subject. First you make your branches. You make them strong enough, you see. They have to carry this weight. With or without wire, they have to carry. So this is already a long time without wire. You can look from underneath. If you see like this, this is the beauty of a simply old tree made from 35-50 euro material a couple of years ago. So this is just the detail work and the result. So like I told them now, we're gonna take it to another level again and open it more. So that means those big pads, first we start with a thinning out more, because it's too dense in the apex. So if we want to achieve more inside buds, we have to more light. Again, timing. Timing is really important. We are now in the second part of the summer. Junipers like this keep growing till end September, middle October. Then they keep growing in the winter, but not so fast. So they have still their production of buds. So if we give the light now, and if we're thinning out now, we are winning. We are winning a year. If we wait till next spring, between April and middle of the summer, they do not so much. If you noticed all the junipers, they start to grow now more strongly in the second part of the summer, and this is exactly the same. So thinning out, open it more, and we see now already the younger and the older branches here in the middle, but the striptease part here, we're gonna make the show a little bit more beautiful.